Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's kind of a cool episode because we are going to be giving the first ever legit preview of the soon-to-be world-famous book written by Kevin Clayson and Steve Earl, Microwins to Millions. All right, well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Replace Your Income with Kevin and...
Steve, how's it going, Kev?
I am fantastic. I'm fantastic because I'm singing. So if I'm singing, I'm fantastic.
You're singing all the time, though. So
Well,
you're
that's a
always
good point.
fantastic.
I don't know about in the office. I can tell you at home, my life is kind of like a musical. There's song to everything. So I'm thinking this will be the first ever musical episode of Replace Your Income.
Kev, when you woke up this morning, what song was going through your head?
Actually, the song, okay, so so I was in Florida recently, right? And I went to a marketing conference and it was amazing. And they hired a pop artist to come and do a private concert. Now, I'd heard his music, but I didn't know that much about him. He's like my new favorite artist. Like, he's got songs that are out. Like, you've probably heard the song, it's Andy Grammer. Do you know who Andy Grammer is? You've probably
know the
heard this
name,
song.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, no, honey, I'm good. I could have another, but I probably should not. You know that song, right? And you got to keep your head up. Oh,
Yep,
oh.
yep,
Okay, that's him. Now, I told you it's going to be the first musical episode ever. So but he was amazing. Like, dude, all of his music is like super positive. Like, it's all got good messages. It's all really positive. He's an amazing family guy. He opened with this song about, how love is the new money is what he called it. And if you go watch the music video, all he does is with a camera crew, he goes and surprises people in his life that have been impactful and just hugs them. Like, it's awesome. Like his kid's kindergarten teacher and like somebody from his band and like his dentist. And it's just awesome. So
That's great.
One of his songs, the Honey I'm Good, Honey I'm Good was in my head.
That was in it. Oh, well, good.
That's
awesome.
why, because I just saw Andy Grammer, I've been listening to the music. I'm forcing my family to listen to it, but they like it, So that's Honey, I'm Good. That's the song, Steve.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and
thanks for sharing that.
I am good, Steve. You want to know why I'm good?
Yes, tell me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's kind of a cool episode because we are going to be giving the first ever legit preview of the soon-to-be world-famous book written by Kevin Clayson and Steve Earl, Microwins to Millions. Can you see that in the camera right there? And if you're not watching on YouTube, you should, so you can see it on the camera. But this is, Steve, this is the book that we've written, taken 3 years to do it. And this
Has it
is
been 3 years?
Something like that, yeah. And it's double. This is double-sided. And for those of you, I think the mic will pick this up. Here's what it sounds like just on 8.5 by 11 paper. Okay, that is substantial. That's what that is. That is substantial. I feel like Rush Limbaugh. Didn't Rush Limbaugh used to
He
crumple
did that
paper?
all the time. Yep, that's right.
by the microphone. Right here but except my fingertips are not previously nicotine stained, as he would always say.
That's what he does say.
But so, dude, what we thought we'd do today is we are going to give everybody an awesome preview of what's in this book. Now, Steve and I will give you a little bit of background of what the process has been to get this book published, because we've hit a couple bumps in the road, which has been fine. And we also, unfortunately, are afflicted by me, and I'm kind of a perfectionist.
Hey, look, I wasn't going to say anything, Kev, but
Well, this is not my first rodeo, but and when it comes to writing books, it's I think I take it so seriously because this is literally going to live on. And I will say, and look, in all honesty, my other book that I had a chance to write and that we put out into the world, Flip the Gratitude Switch. I know for a fact, have the stories in hand, that it has legitimately saved at least 2 lives. Saved the lives. And I think there's probably more stories than that. And that is so, technically it's 3 lives if you consider what it did for me, right? And so I think about that, Steve, and I go, dude, if we're going to put something into the world, and this is why we've taken so long, we don't want to there's plenty of people out there that will write books just to put a book out and say, I am an author now. Look at the book I have written. And nobody cares, right?
Yeah. So from where we were like a year ago at this point, having you essentially go through and kind of take the framework of what we had and rewrite the entire book.
Twice.
It is twice. It is. It's significantly improved, and it's more who we are as individuals, and it reflects much better our personalities, the experiences that we've had, the experiences that our clients have had, and for sure, we've been able to dive significantly deeper into what I think at the end of the day is really going to help people in terms of the philosophy of Microwins 2 million.
The other thing that I think is really critical is I don't think it could have gone faster, because there are, from the get-go, when we started to write this book, Steve, you and I had a goal that we wanted to make it as evergreen as possible, right? Now, real estate is one of those things that's super cyclical, so it's sometimes hard to keep it evergreen. And even though our initial efforts we thought were evergreen-ish, the world has so drastically changed in the real estate world over the last 3 years that we've been able to go through and make sure that the information in here is truly timeless, that it is 100% a principle-based approach to life, money, real estate, business, family, you name it, and it is here. And we the last time we even teased the book, I think, on the podcast was probably a year and a half ago, and it has undergone major shifts since then, and we're going to talk about what those are, and we're going to kind of tell you what the format of the book's going to be. Then we're going to go through and tell you what each of the 12 chapters are. There's a principle per chapter, and we're going to tell you how we articulate that principle both in general and then also from a real estate standpoint. So we are going to dive in. This is the first look, the real first look of Microwins to Millions. And just to give everybody some additional context and background story, Steve and I started talking about doing this book mostly because we knew that we had something to say. And we've watched so many competitors, so many wannabes, so many people try to enter the space and pretend that they're somehow serving the world when all they're really doing is trying to sell crap to people so that they can make money, but they don't really care about what the person is getting on the other end of it. We've seen so many people come and go in this space, and we've had, thankfully, some staying power because we have amazing clients, we have amazing people that work with us, and we've got a set of principles and really a system that has been an approach that has worked regardless of what the market has done. And so we kind of felt like, look, we're largely invisible, right? I mean, when you think about, you articulate it for a second, because you were just at a conference with EXP, and you came back and you were talking to the team a little bit about the percentage of like transactions that we are in the world and the investment space. I don't remember what your numbers were, but I remember feeling incredibly small and insignificant. Because we are, but maybe go through those.
The leadership of EXP Realty, they shared some insights and some stats as to what's going on in the market today. And last month alone, there were more than 40,000 properties that were under contract that got canceled.
Crazy.
And they got canceled because interest rates went up, prices continue to go up, people are getting scared, they're very fearful. Now, that represented, though, only 15% of all real estate transactions. Okay. So if you take 40,000, if that represents 15%, the other 85% or in total, that's about 270,000 homes in 1 month that were slated to sell and close. So if you take into context, well, the other thing that they shared is that of the closed transactions in recent months, 26% of them are real estate investment related transactions. 26%.
Yeah.
Now,
I would imagine that's quite a bit higher than a normal, like what would normally be the case, right?
It is, because normally, well, here's the other stat. The number of transactions closing on a monthly basis right now is at a historic low. It is at the lowest point since the beginning of this century. So in the last 23 years, we are at the lowest number of transactions per month in the last 23 years.
But interesting. So, but the percentage of properties that are closing in terms of how much an investment has gone up significantly, which should be...
Well, it's gone up because the number of total transactions have gone down.
Yeah, but my point is investors are doing the thing that we talk about,
right,
which is people are still transacting real estate because now is an ideal and amazing time. Like, we're not the only ones saying it, but we are such a small fraction of what's out there.
So when you think about it, like we're just a small organization, right? I mean, we've got about 20 employees and we help a lot of people do a lot of real estate, but in the grander scheme of things, of the 26% of the 270,000 transactions, that's about 60,000 investment real estate transactions per month.
Yeah.
And so we represent like 0.002%
yeah, right,
of 1%.
Yeah.
So like we're pretty tiny in the grander scheme of things. And so we are invisible to the larger world because we're not some big behemoth company. We're not doing tens of thousands of transactions.
We don't have, and we're not doing Super Bowl commercials and things like that. So
right.
people, they don't know who we are. Yeah.
So, but the thing that is really exciting about what we're talking about with the book is that we have the opportunity. We might not be able to help the whole world transact real estate. We're never going to do that. But what we do have an opportunity to do, and whether people do real estate with us or whether they don't do real estate with us, they can learn about the principles that we're teaching.
That's right.
And apply them to their real estate investing life, to their relationships, to whatever it is in life that is important to them. This concept of micro wins to millions, in my mind, is akin to Think and Grow Rich, where it's like Think and Grow Rich isn't. Although the platform is about making money in many instances, the reality is Think and Grow Rich is about using the power of your mind to do and attain anything that you want in this life.
That's right. To go after your definite major purpose, to achieve it, and to do something of significance.
And so Microwins to Millions is akin to that concept, where certainly, like, we apply it to real estate because that is our platform, but the ability to apply it to any aspect of life that's important to you is the key to the philosophy that we're talking about.
Well, and it really is a philosophical underpinning, and it is a systematized approach to real estate that is backed by an achievement philosophy that just flat out works. Now, I got to tell you this, and then we're going to get into what these principles are. So one of the things that we do in our family is every morning before everybody leaves, we always have a family prayer, right? That's just the thing that we do. 7:10, at 7:10, I jump on the Alexa. We got Alexas all through the house, and I say, hey, everybody, it's time for prayer. A lot of times it does include a song. And there will be times when do you remember the old MC Hammer song, Pray? We need to pray just to make it. There's many times that is included. But what I tell everybody is time to pray. We come together, and then we just kind of take turns saying the prayer every day. And this morning, my daughter, Brooklyn, she's the one that gave the prayer. And it made me feel so good because she said something, Steve. So to let me back out. I'm going to come back to that story. I don't believe people should write a book unless they are irrationally passionate and truly believe with the depth of their soul that what they are sharing is significant and should make a ripple in the world. I don't think people should write books just because you want to consider yourself an author. I'm just a believer that books aren't there just to be written. Books are there because there is a tremendous amount of knowledge that we all have. There's only ever one Steve Earl. There's only ever one Kevin Clayson. You view the world one way. I view it another way. We combined our worldviews to put it into this book. And we've been able to add real estate and what we've done here with the company in this book, which makes it really interesting. Well,
Kev, really quick. I mean, in the world of business these days, most books are written as marketing pieces.
Yes, right.
That is what this is not.
Exactly. We know it will function in that way because people will read it and they'll tell their friends and more people will find us. But we were like, if we're going to write a book, we're going to pour our souls into it. Like, this has to be real. And here's the thing. I know so many people in the book speaking industry who they do not believe the things that they share from stage. They say it because it sounds good and they say it because they can sell it, but they do not believe it. And the same dang thing in the real estate space. We know people, Steve, who are out there talking about real estate. It is not what they are doing. And they don't care about anything except selling as many people as they can into their thing. They are frauds. We are not. And the reason why I can say that is because if this principle is meaningful to me, or the idea, the philosophical underpinning in this book, if it's important to me, my kids better know it. Because it's not something that I'm going to write just because I'm like, it sounds like a good idea. I should just write this book because I think it'll sell some copies and we could do real estate. No, it better be something that I believe in my core. I better be irrationally passionate about what this thing is. So now back to the prayer this morning. So I've been teaching my kids these principles. They've been involved, just like they were with Flip the Gratitude Switch, right? And my wife too. Like this becomes that, like this is a way for me to articulate, for you to articulate a piece of our life that maybe we've never been able to put a framework to, or been able to put some real tangible ideas around. It's like you learn things, you experience things, you live your life a certain way. When you have to step back and say, if I were to go tell somebody how to do the thing or believe the way that I believe, or to impart my knowledge in a way that I understand it, it requires a lot of work, and you've really got to be you really have to be super intentional about what you share. So as we've been writing this book, Stephen, as these ideas have been solidifying more and more for you and I mean, this book is like it's like the culmination of something that we've been doing and thinking and living for decades, but we hadn't even given it form, right? We gave it form when we called it what it is, which is Microwins to Millions, when it's the Microwins mindset. All of a sudden, we gave it form. Now, because it has form, I teach it. I teach it to my kids when I coach them. I teach it to my children at home. And this morning, we kneel down for prayer, and my daughter says, she's praying, and she says, help us to recognize the small victories we have throughout the day and to appreciate them. And I went, oh my gosh, it worked. She views the world a little bit different now. It's not just you have to get through the day. It's that during the day, there will be small little victories, small little micro wins that may seem insignificant. But when they stack together, when you realize that as soon as that victory takes place, when that win happens and you celebrate that win, it can propel you forward to do it again and again. And then over time, you come up with a life that is worth living and talking about and experiencing. And I got to see that play out in real time with my daughter today. And I mean, it was like, I was kneeling there, we all have our eyes closed, and I was grinning from ear to ear because I was like, oh, she got it. And so when we say, if you guys are listening, which you are, for those of you listening, when we say that this is something that we've poured our hearts and souls into, this is real for us. This is not just a marketing piece. This is real life. And so, Steve, I think we ought to jump in. Let's go through and tell everybody what this is. Now, I'm going to talk about the format of the book real quick. So when I wrote Flip the Gratitude Switch, I did it in kind of a unique format because it's just what felt right. We did a unique format here too. Now, it took us a number of iterations for us to kind of settle on this format, but here is the format of the book. The book is a principle-based book. It's a principle-based approach to life and success that then also includes those principles in how we've applied them from a real estate standpoint. Because if it's a principle, it means that it is eternal, right? It's real. A principle, we talk about it in the book. A principle is different than just learned knowledge, because knowledge can change over time, but principles, they don't ever change, right? That is, they are steadfast. And so we have in the book 12 chapters, 12 principles. And the way each chapter is designed is at the start of the chapter, we state the principle that we call the general principle. Then the first half of the chapter is us talking about that principle high level in terms of family and business and just life success and general achievement. Then the second half of the chapter is we have a real estate application of that principle. And then we describe how we've used that principle in real estate, in Moneyball real estate, the Moneyball real estate system, to help our clients achieve economic independence. So what we're going to do is for everybody on this episode and this episode only, we are going to go through each of the principles per chapter. We're going to read the general principle. We're going to then talk a little bit about that briefly. We'll then give you the real estate application of that principle, talk about that briefly. We are not going to go in depth. There's going to be so much more depth that's going to come over the next couple years, and the real depth is going to come in the book. So you guys better get ready to read this thing because you're going to love it. So, Steve, should we dive in?
Sounds good.
Here we go. Chapter 1, Principle 1, stacking microwins. And the general principle is stack microwins to create large-scale victories. All right, Steve, high level, what does that mean?
The whole idea, right, is we go through life, and a lot of times we've been taught our whole lives that it's like, hey, you need to swing for the fences. You need to swing one time and win it all. It is the complete opposite of that. It's the concept of the little wins stacked upon each other will get you to where you want to go, right? So
that's right.
So it's not about thinking small. And yes. I want to make sure that people understand that concept,
really
right?
Yeah.
Like we're not asking you to think small. We're asking you to think big, but then how do you get there through the individual wins along the way?
That's right. How do you reverse engineer out of it, and how do you say, look, because, and here's the thing, right? And we'll get into this with, I think it's chapter and principle 3. When we talk about reframing progress, but there's so often that we perceive ourselves at a level that we're not where we want to be because we've been told we're supposed to swing for the fences. We got to go big or go home. And then when we don't do that thing, we somehow feel like we're less than. But what we're saying is, no. Look, there is a big goal. Micro wins 2 million, but celebrate the micro wins. Celebrate the little stacking victories along the way. And the real estate application of that principle is Moneyball real estate, right? That's really what we've done with real estate. And so what we articulate in the book is that Moneyball real estate is the strategy whereby you invest in simple and conservative single-family investment properties, hitting real estate singles instead of trying to financially swing for the fences. And that's exactly all we've done with our clients for however many years, right? Okay, let's go to principle 2, Steve.
All right, principle 2 is celebrate the journey, not the arrival. So the general principle is achievement is a celebratory journey, not an arrival. So it's not about like getting there. It really is, it can be cliche. It's like it's about the journey. But we put it in terms such that we really articulate that it really is about the journey.
Yeah.
It's about what you learn along the way. It's about what you experience along the way. And the fact that it doesn't have to be like this arduous process where you're suffering and you're toiling and you're sweating and you're bleeding. And then you finally get there, and then you get to be like, oh, now I'm happy.
Yes, right. And here's the reason why this is so critical. I would imagine that everybody listening has at some point set a massive goal. Steve, I know you've done this. Have you ever achieved a massive goal that you've set for yourself? Like something that you really worked towards and you achieved it?
Yes, of course.
And when you achieved it, it probably felt good, right?
Yes.
But was it also a little bit of a letdown? Because that's what I've seen.
In my case, like it was awesome to achieve it. Like there's a number of different things, but you might be referring to, my big goal. It was a 10-year journey to qualify for and run the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And quite frankly, when I finally did accomplish that objective, I kind of wish I would have never got there, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's something about that. Yeah.
There's something to it, like the work and the commitment and everything that I was doing to get there. I loved every minute. I loved getting up early in the morning, and it was my favorite time of the day as like the sun was coming over the mountains and like breathing the air running up the canyon was literally like this, like it's hard to describe in terms of, it's like taking a deep drink of cool water every time I'd take like this deep breath.
Yeah.
And once I accomplished the goal, I kind of fell apart, right? Physically, I just I kind of let everything go. It's like, I did that, checking out, and I'm going to go do something else. When in reality, it's like, I look back on that journey to get there. Most amazing experience, one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
And the problem is sometimes people get so focused on achieving the goal that they forget to enjoy the process to achieve it.
That's right.
But here's the deal. If you can enjoy the process to achieve the goal, it actually fuels you to continue to stack micro wins, and then you get to experience joy throughout, not just at the end, right? Like I think about this when like with Flip the Gratitude Switch, right? That's a huge thing in my life. And the same thing is happening with this book. Like there was so much work to get that thing into the world. And then it got done. And I remember when it got done, I was like, wait, is it really done? Like, that's how I feel about this book right now. Like, we've spent all this time, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, is it really done? This is so weird.
Okay, we might even have to do this in two parts because we start talking about some of these principles and we can't stop talking. But because the thought that's going through my mind right now is this very thing. Like, so many people are so focused on retirement. One of the things that is so crazy to me when I talk to some people throughout the day or at the end of the week or something, they're like, it was really great. My day went by really fast. And I was glad to get it over with. And I'm like, what? It's like, you should be thinking, it's like, how can my day be over already? Yeah. It's like, I want it to go another 24 hours because I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. It's so fulfilling. I love going and playing with my friends at work every day, kind of a thing, as opposed to like wanting to just get through it. And I think a lot of people just feel like they want to get through life so they can get to retirement. And then what happens when they retire?
Yeah.
They think that there's going to be joy at the end of the rainbow at the golf course.
Yes.
And within a couple of weeks, they're like, I hate this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I worked so hard to get here and now I hate this. And they don't know what to do with themselves. And they go get a job, a meaningless job somewhere just to kind of pass the time. And it's like, they're passing the time to get to the next thing as opposed to enjoying the moment.
So you're right. We might have to do this in a couple parts because there's a story that we put in the book and then we took out of the book, but it just because it didn't flow the way we wanted it to, but it was so instructional for me. It was when my wife and I were on our honeymoon and we did the road to Hana, and the road to Hana is in Maui, and it's like this really long drive. We rented this Jeep that you could take the top off. It was super fun, and we're driving along the road to Hana, and everybody had talked about, it's so cool, the road to Hana, it's amazing. Well, like have you done the road?
Yeah.
Okay. So like you get to Hana and you're like, wait, is this it?
You're like, what?
But along the road to Hana,
it's amazing.
There are so many things. Like there's apparently black sand beaches. I never saw it. You know why? Because guess what I was focused on?
Hana.
Getting to Hana. And so that we stopped. We like saw a waterfall here, but it's like we didn't enjoy the waterfall. We're like, hey, look, it's pretty. Let's go. And because we're like, we heard it's really long and you have to go slow and there's cows on the road. And so we're like trying to enjoy it. But honestly, the entire time we're feeling stressed. Like I'm trying to get to Hana. And then we get to Hana and we're like, what? This is like just okay. But then the most incredible thing happened after we got to Hana. I felt a letdown because I was like, well, we're here and this wasn't as cool as I thought. But then we kept going and we went a little bit further to a national park and we found something called the 7 Sacred Pools. And I didn't know it was there. We didn't know that's where we were headed. And when we got there, it wasn't about getting to the goal. It was just about enjoying the journey. Like the most incredible part of the day was a little bit of time between Hana and these falls that we didn't even know existed because I could just enjoy every moment of that. And so that is why this principle is so critical, that if you can celebrate the process, there's so much more enjoyment and it fuels everything. So the real estate application of this principle that we talk about in the book is the choice to begin investing in real estate deserves celebration. Just the fact that you're on this podcast, just the fact that you got your first home or you do a refinance or you pull cash out or you get a HELOC or whatever it is, that is worth celebrating. And this investment journey will provide multiple opportunities to celebrate as you move toward economic independence. So that is principle number 2. Now, so we're like almost at 30 minutes.
We got like 2 minutes left.
Yeah, so maybe what we'll do is let's talk about principle 3 and then let's just roll principles 4 through 12 to the next episode. We'll just hook everybody. You're going to have to listen to those. So we'll talk about principle 3. We'll conclude this episode. Principle 3, chapter 3 is something we call reframing progress. And here's the idea. Measure progress, not shortcomings. Now, Steve, you and I are massive fans of Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He and Dan Sullivan wrote a book that has been really impactful for me. I know it's been impactful for you, called The Gap in the Gain. And the idea of the gap in the gain is so often we measure our success based on the scoreboard, right? We're looking at the scoreboard and we're going, all right, I'm trying to win the game. I got to get so many goals, or I got to get so many runs, or I got to get so many points, or whatever it is. And when we see that we're not where we want to get to yet, We perceive that as a deficit, and because we perceive that as a deficit or a shortcoming, we then feel bad about where we currently are. That is what Dr. Benjamin Hardy calls being in the gap, right? You're measuring from where you are to where you want to go. The reality is, it's not that we're saying you should neglect having the goal. Again, you talked about it earlier. We're not saying think small. It's just there's another way. You can measure progress, not just deficit. So if you were to measure backwards, this is what Dr. Benjamin Hardy says, and Dan Sullivan, if you were to look at where you were and where you've come to, and you were to sort of revel in that, it feels significantly better than just focusing on the deficit of what you've yet to achieve. And that is the idea of reframing progress. What if it's about where you've come from and the micro wins you've stacked and the celebration that's taken place so that you can enjoy the journey, so that you can feel good about where you are, so you can continue to move forward? Because what happens sometimes, Steve, is, when we have a big goal and we measure ourselves in deficit, we look at where we want to go and we measure back to where we are, it can be so discouraging that we stop progressing. We could just give up, right? But this says do something different. And the real estate application of the principle is that it's not productive to compare the state of your real estate portfolio or financial life with the portfolios or financial journeys of others. Appreciating each individual bit of progress in your personal portfolio journey fuels you to continue to achieve more.
Man, when you think about that concept, I think about recently, seeing a post somewhere about some individual, who's going to become like a trillionaire. I was like, man, I'm just I'm just so lousy.
I don't have a desire to be a trillionaire. Does that make me a bad person?
So I should bring that up. But it's dangerous, right? When you get into the comparison game, as opposed to taking a look at your own situation, and the way that you measure your progress is by looking back. And we do that on a regular basis. I'm thinking about, we recently joined eXp Realty, and we've put together this entire real estate agent program where they can come and work with us to create their own, DFY certified agent business. And when I think about it, it's like, man, I want to be here. I want to have, our goal is to get to 100 agents who are working with us here at Done For You Real Estate. And I think to myself, it's like, man, we got so far to go. But when I take a look at where we were at 4 months ago when we got started with nothing, and I look at all the collateral we have now, the on-demand certification program,
everything
that we've got put together,
2 live events that we've had, agents from all over the country that have come and attended.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah,
and just the infrastructure that we've put into place, that all takes time.
Yeah,
and so when I see myself in the gap, I got to take a look back and find myself in the game by looking backwards to see where I've come.
And it's so important from a real estate standpoint too, because yes, we all want to get there, right? We want to get to economic independence. We want to have 10 properties or more or whatever it is. And when we go, oh my goodness, I'm just not where I want to be, then our brain starts to spin in a direction that maybe prevents us from continuing to find ways to move forward. And so that is principle 3. And that is going to conclude this episode. So on the next episode, we're going to go through, I'm going to assume that, because I think, Steve, I believe in us that we can get from principle 4 all the way through principle 12 in the second episode. So we'll make this a 2-part podcast.
We can do it.
So everybody get ready for Microwins to Millions, because it's going to blow your mind. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode and some of this discussion. Make sure you come back next week for the second part of this discussion, where we will go through the rest of the principles of the book and try to wet your whistle for this incredible book to be in your life, because we really, truly, honestly believe it. We are irrationally passionate about these principles, and we have watched these principles not only impact our lives as business owners and as fathers and as real estate investors, but these are the precise, exact principles and formulas that we've used with our clients that have been able to get to 10 and more properties and achieve economic independence. This is absolutely as real as it gets. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next episode.
See you on the other side.